They say you can't really know someone, not completely, not even after 29 years of marriage. I used to laugh that off. If I don't know Margaret, who the hell do I know? But I wasn't laughing when I found myself sitting across from two detectives in a sterile white room, staring at a photo of my wife's lifeless body on a cold slab. The worst part? I still loved her. Retirement wasn't supposed to start like this. We were finally free. We had money, we had time, and we had plans. Margaret and I had spent nearly 3 decades raising 2 kids, grinding away at work, me at the construction firm, her at the county tax office, and saving every dime we could. We were frugal. We didn't take vacations. We drove the same Honda Civic until it coughed its last breath on I-40. Every Sunday, she'd make me eggs and sit by the window, talking about all the places we'd go once the kids were grown and the paychecks stopped. Italy, Portland. Maybe rent a little cabin in Maine for the fall. In April of 2019, we sold the house. The kids were long gone. I'd just turned 52. Margaret was 49. The buyer wired $418,000 to our joint account, and we packed our lives into storage. She wanted something smaller, quieter. She was tired of mowing lawns and paying for HVAC repairs. She found the secluded place outside Asheville, not quite a cabin, but cozy. Remote. 2 bedrooms, no neighbors within shouting distance. I thought it was too quiet. She said that was the point. That's where things started to shift. At first, I thought she was just adjusting. Retirement is weird. Your body slows, but your brain keeps running. Margaret started gardening, started hiking. She even got a telescope, said she wanted to learn constellations. I supported it. Hell, I was proud of her. She'd always wanted to be more than a paper pusher behind a plexiglass window. But she also started locking her phone, leaving the room to answer calls, staying up after I went to bed, and she never touched me anymore, not even a hand on my back as I passed her in the kitchen. I asked her once, "Is there someone else?" She didn't even blink. "No, Doug. Don't be ridiculous." But she didn't say "I love you" either. I didn't think it was an affair. Margaret wasn't reckless. If she was hiding something, it was bigger than sex. So one night, after she took her wine into the guest room again, I waited until she fell asleep and took her phone from her nightstand. Password was our daughter's birthday. Too easy. What I saw didn't make sense at first. There were dozens of texts to someone saved as Cynthia HR, but they weren't about jobs. They were about money, transfers, wire instructions, mentions of accounts I didn't recognize. Cayman something or other. Then I saw it. A PDF file, scanned document. I clicked it open. Life insurance. Douglas J. Weller, primary insured. Signed 3 months ago. $2.5 million. Beneficiary, Margaret Weller. I stared at the screen so long my eyes burned. I thought, there's no way. But the next morning, she was sweet again. Made eggs. Coffee. Touched my shoulder. Said, "We should go hiking this weekend. You need air." I wanted to believe it. I wanted to be wrong. That Saturday, we hiked the Lover's Spine Trail up in Pisgah. The whole time she walked ahead of me, too fast, almost as if she was checking something. Her phone never left her hand. When we reached the overlook, I watched her slip something into her pocket. Tiny. White. I only saw it for a second. She smiled at me. "You tired, honey?" I nodded. "Sit down a while. I'll take a picture of the view." She walked toward the edge, about 20 feet away, raised the phone. I didn't move. I watched her shoulders tighten. Her thumb hovered over the screen, but she didn't take the photo. Instead, she turned and looked at me. I'll never forget that look, like she was saying goodbye without saying a word. 2 days later, I started coughing blood. Went to the ER. They thought it was pneumonia, maybe a collapsed lung. Scans came back with nothing conclusive. They kept me overnight. Margaret sat in the chair beside my bed, reading a mystery novel and pretending nothing was wrong. But that night, when she thought I was asleep, she left the hospital at 1:32 a.m. I know because I checked the hallway cameras later. She didn't return until 5:46. She said she went home to shower. But she was wearing the same clothes. By the end of that week, I checked myself out of the hospital. Something wasn't right. I felt better, but not okay. I told Margaret I needed rest, and she smiled like that was the best thing she'd heard all day. That night, She made me tea, said it would help me sleep. I didn't drink it. I poured it into the potted fern by the door when she wasn't looking. The next morning, the fern was dead. I confronted her that evening. Not violently, not even angrily. I just stood in the doorway while she was folding laundry and said, "Why are you trying to kill me?" She froze. Then she laughed. Not fake, genuine, breathless laughter. "Doug, are you hearing yourself? That's insane." I walked to the counter, pulled the printout of the insurance policy from my pocket, and dropped it beside her. She stared at it for 10 long seconds. No denial, no shock, just a slow, exhausted sigh. Like I'd just ruined the ending of her favorite book. 2 days later, she was dead. Found in her car at the bottom of a ravine off Bear Ridge Pass. Seatbelt off. Engine still running. No skid marks. No broken branches on the way down. Sheriff said it looked like she just drove off the edge. They called it suicide. Said maybe she felt guilty or ashamed. But I know Margaret, and I know what I saw on her face that night I accused her. It wasn't guilt. It was fear. And here's the part one can't shake. The insurance policy she took out on me? It wasn't the only one. 2 more were found after her death. 1 on her. And 1 on both of us, as a couple. But none of them named me as the beneficiary. Not one. I didn't cry at her funeral. Not because I didn't care. I did. God, I did. But grief wasn't what sat in my chest that day. It was confusion. And anger. A suffocating mix of suspicion and heartbreak. I stood over Margaret's closed casket in that dim little funeral home just outside Asheville, surrounded by people whispering words like tragic and sudden, and all I could think was, none of this makes any damn sense. She had plans. She had schemes. But whatever she set in motion didn't end with her death. It started with it. After the funeral, I went back to the house alone. It felt like walking into someone else's life. Every room was clean, untouched. Too untouched, like she'd already erased herself. The scent of her lavender shampoo still hung faintly in the air, but her closet was half empty. Her laptop was gone. Her jewelry box? Empty. I hadn't noticed before, because she'd been doing it in pieces. Quietly. Deliberately. Preparing. I checked our joint bank account. The house sale money was gone. Every penny. I sat at the kitchen table and pulled out a folder I'd started keeping, full of everything I'd found. The life insurance documents, her text, the receipt for a safety deposit box I discovered tucked inside an old cookbook. I hadn't told the cops about any of it yet. I didn't trust them, not in a small town like this. Too easy for things to disappear. Too easy to be dismissed as just another crazy grieving husband. So I went to the bank myself, presented the receipt, showed my ID, told them I was her husband. They said no. "You're not on the authorization list, sir." I stared at the clerk, cold and sweaty. "I'm her husband." "I understand, sir. But the access list is very specific. And here's the thing. I was on the account, but I wasn't on that list. There was only one name on it, Eleanor Grayson. I didn't know who that was, but I was going to find out. I drove straight to the Asheville County Clerk's office. My hands shook the whole way. I knew I was losing it, the way you know you're slipping off a cliff and there's no ledge to grab. I paid for a record search. It took the clerk 20 minutes to dig it up. Eleanor Grayson, 52 years old. Charlotte, North Carolina. No relation to Margaret Weller. But 4 months ago, just before we sold our house, Margaret co-signed a lease with her. A storage unit lease. In Charlotte, under both of their names. I stared at the paper. The address was scrawled in cheap blue ink at the bottom, and I remember thinking, who the hell was my wife? Charlotte was a 2-hour drive. I made it in 90 minutes. The storage facility looked like 100 others. Pale orange doors, chain link fence, blinking security cameras that probably didn't work. The manager was a heavy-set man with a nicotine cough and eyes that didn't want trouble. I told him I was looking for a unit rented by Margaret Weller and Eleanor Grayson. He asked for ID. I showed it. He hesitated. "I'm not supposed to," he started. I pulled out a $100 bill and slid it across the counter. He coughed, then slid me a clipboard. Unit 42B was in the back, tucked in a corner, half concealed by overgrown bushes. The lock was cheap. One twist of a hammer would have snapped it. Inside, it was also neat. 1 large duffel bag. 1 banker's box. And a cooler. No dust. No smell. Whatever this was, it was recent. I opened the duffel first. Cash. Neatly stacked, bundled with rubber bands. No bank stamps, just cold, anonymous bills. I counted one row, $10,000. There were at least 10 rows. My stomach dropped. Next was the box. Documents, fake IDs, tax forms. A passport with Margaret's photo, but under a different name, Emily Ward. A stack of envelopes with offshore bank logos, and tucked in the very bottom, beneath a false panel, was a small velvet pouch. Inside was a ring. Platinum. Big stone. Not Margaret's style. I knew that because she hated diamonds. The cooler was last. When I opened it, the air changed. There wasn't ice. There wasn't food. There were bones. Small. Clean. Human. Wrapped in cloth, like a shroud. I stepped back, heart hammering. My legs nearly gave out. I called the police anonymously from a payphone outside a gas station 10 minutes later. Told them I'd seen something strange in a storage unit. Gave them the address. Then I drove home in silence, gripping the wheel like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to reality. I didn't sleep that night, didn't eat, didn't even turn on a light. Just sat there in the dark, trying to remember, was any of it ever real? The call came the next day. Not from the police, from a number I didn't recognize. I answered anyway. The voice was female, cool, smooth, calculated. Mr. Weller, you've been busy. I didn't speak. Your wife had a plan. You weren't supposed to find it, but now you have. I swallowed. Who is this? A pause. Then, she wasn't supposed to fall in love with you, you know. That was the problem. She always got soft. Click. Dead air. I went to the sheriff that afternoon. Told him everything. Showed him the documents, the texts, the storage unit receipt, everything. He nodded slowly, like he was listening. Then he stepped out of the room. 5 minutes later, 2 federal agents walked in. Badges, jackets, poker faces. They already knew my name. And here's what they told me. Margaret wasn't Margaret. At least not only Margaret. She'd used at least 3 aliases over 20 years. Each time with a new identity, a new location, a new life insurance policy. She'd married before. Twice. Both husbands dead. One in a boating accident in Florida. One fell down the stairs in Oregon. Payouts, over $3.5 million total. They never found a link, until now. And they never found the body of the real Margaret Weller. Because the woman I married wasn't her. When the agents told me the woman I buried wasn't Margaret Weller, something inside me broke. Not in a dramatic way. Not with sobbing or fists pounding against a wall. It was quiet, still. Like a curtain had been drawn back on my entire life, and all I could do was sit there in the dark, blinking at the hollow space where my marriage used to be. She wasn't Margaret. Not legally. Not biologically. She was someone else, a ghost made of forged documents, stolen identities, and dead men's money. And for 29 years, I had loved that ghost. The feds were tight-lipped. But they knew more than they were saying. One of the agents, his name was Fowler, mid-50s, pale like he lived under fluorescent lights, sat across from me with a manila folder he never opened. Just sat with it, fingers tapping, waiting to see what I knew before he said anything more. The other one, Agent Morales, was younger. Quieter. She watched me more than she spoke. Watching for lies. 4 cracks. I asked them straight, who was she? Fowler flipped the folder open then, finally. Pulled out a grainy photo, black and white, like an old DMV snapshot. Same eyes, same cheekbones. But the hair was darker, shorter, harder. No warmth. Name on the file, Carolyn Ames. Born in Ohio, 1970. Missing since 1995. Missing, not dead. She had stolen the identity of Margaret Weller, a real woman, born 1969, who did die, in a house fire in Tallahassee. No foul play suspected. Carolyn had picked through the ashes of someone else's life and put on the skin like it was hers. They said she was part of something bigger, a web of women like her. Black widow types, but quieter, smarter. They embedded themselves in men's lives, not just for money, but for power. Real control. Long cons, life insurance, trust funds. Most of the victims never even knew they were marked. The men who survived, they didn't come out clean. They came out paranoid, discredited, ruined. They called it the Grayson Circle, a name they traced to that woman on the deposit box list, Eleanor Grayson. A phantom. No confirmed photo. No legal trace. But every time one of these wives surfaced, her name was nearby, in signatures, offshore transfers, LLC paperwork. They believed Eleanor Grayson was the architect, and Margaret, or Carolyn, was one of her most trusted. I was one of 4 known husbands. The only one still breathing. The feds had been watching her. Not just her but me, our accounts, my hospital stay, my life insurance. I was a data point on their wall, circled in red, one more soon-to-be corpse, flagged for recovery. But then she died. And none of it went to plan. Because here's the twist that burned deeper than anything else. She was trying to run. Fowler slid a note across the table, found in the lining of her purse. It wasn't long, 4 sentences, written in her tight, perfect script. It's not safe anymore. He's starting to ask questions. I'm moving the funds and going off-grid. Eleanor will understand. It wasn't signed. But it didn't have to be. The implication was clear. I was the liability. And she'd planned to disappear before I could unravel what she'd built. But someone got to her first. That's when Morales spoke up. We don't think it was suicide, Mr. Weller. The brakes on her car were cut clean. No trace of impact injuries consistent with self-inflicted crash. She was dead before the fall, strangled. Bruising on the throat. Defensive wounds on the wrist. I felt my hands go numb. So who did it? I asked. Morales didn't blink. We're working on that. But this wasn't a crime of passion. It was cleanup. Fowler closed the folder, stood up. We'll be in touch. That night, I drank. More than I should have. Alone, sitting on the porch of the house she picked for us. The house that was supposed to be our quiet ending. The air was cold. The trees creaked in the wind. And then I saw it. A flash. Across the yard, by the tree line. A figure. Watching. I stood, squinted. They didn't move, didn't speak, just vanished, like smoke. I don't know if it was grief or paranoia, or the whiskey crawling up my brainstem. But I went inside and locked every door. I slept with a hammer under the pillow. The next morning, I got a package. No return address, no postmark, just a manila envelope, left on my doorstep. Inside was a flash drive. And a note, blocky, typed font. You were never supposed to know. But now you have a choice. Watch the footage. Then walk away. Or don't, and follow her into the dark. I hesitated. Then I plugged it in. There were 6 video files, each time-stamped, each labeled with a location. Asheville, Denver, Tampa, Portland. All surveillance footage, all low quality. All showing her, Margaret, or Carolyn, or whatever her name was in those moments. In each clip, she was with a different man. Holding hands. Kissing. Signing documents. In the Denver video, she was in a courthouse, marrying someone. I watched as she leaned in, kissed a balding man in a gray suit, and smiled. That video was from 2009. She was still married to me. And then came the last video, different from the others. It was shot on a phone. Shaky. Intimate. She was in a hotel room, sitting at a small table. Talking to someone just off camera. Her voice was low, urgent. He knows. Not everything, but enough. He found the documents. I think he suspects the tea. Then silence. Her eyes shifted. And for the first time, I saw something in her expression I didn't expect. Fear. If this goes south, tell Eleanor I'm done. No more jobs. I'll vanish. I mean it this time. The camera cut. End of video. That fear in her voice. It wasn't for me, it was for them. For whatever circle she was a part of. For whoever ran it. She didn't kill herself. She didn't fall. She tried to leave. And they silenced her. I burned the flash drive. Not because I wanted to forget, but because I knew someone was watching. The figure at the tree line. The unmarked package. The voice on the phone. This wasn't over. And now I was inside the story. No longer just a mark. Now I was a witness. And I had nothing left to lose. When you lose everything, your wife, your money, your sense of what's real, you start to see the world differently. Not softer. Not sadder. Just sharper. Every glance becomes a threat. Every sound outside the window feels like a warning. That's how I was living 2 weeks after the package arrived. Sleeping in shifts, curtains drawn, gun I didn't know how to use sitting on the kitchen counter. I wasn't waiting for closure. I was waiting for her world to catch up to me. And one night, it finally did. It started with an email. No sender name. Just a single word in the subject line. Grayson. My blood ran cold. The message body was simple. You're not safe in Asheville. They know about the drive. Leave before Friday. Follow the map. Don't trust the agents. Attached, a digital map. Coordinates pinned somewhere in South Carolina. A motel near Beaufort. The file name? Eleanor. I stared at it for a long time. The same name that had appeared on Margaret's deposit box receipt. The name whispered by the agents. The name that tied all of this together. Eleanor Grayson. The woman behind it all. I didn't know if it was bait or salvation, but at that point, it didn't matter. I packed a duffel with cash I'd hidden from our joint account, a burner phone, a change of clothes, and her wedding ring. By dawn, I was gone. The drive south was fog-thick, endless. My mind kept replaying her voice from the video. If this goes south, tell Eleanor I'm done. Each time I heard it, something twisted in me. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was curiosity. Who was Eleanor? And why did Margaret Carolyn fear her more than prison or exposure? By the time I reached the motel, the sun had burned off the mist, leaving a brittle kind of heat that made everything feel like a hallucination. It was a run-down place. Peeling turquoise paint, ice machine rattling by the lobby door. Room 14. The number from the coordinates. I knocked once. Nothing. Twice. Then the door creaked open. The woman standing there looked ordinary. 50s. Trim. Dark blonde hair cut to the jawline. But her eyes were wrong. Too calm, too focused. She didn't ask who I was. She just said, "You look like you haven't slept." I stepped inside. The air smelled of cheap coffee and metal polish. There were files everywhere, open folders, photographs, maps pinned to the wall. Every one of them had faces, men. Dozens of them, some dead, some missing. And one my own, circled in red marker. I took a step closer to the wall, my stomach churning. What is this? She didn't look up from the papers. A ledger, she said. Every man she touched left a paper trail. Some left bodies. You knew her? I asked. She smiled faintly. Knew her? I made her. I froze. Eleanor Grayson. That's one of my names, she said. Names are tools, Douglas. Your wife understood that better than anyone. I tried to keep my voice steady. You killed her. Her smile faded. No, I protected her. Until she got stupid. Until she started caring about you. She turned then, finally meeting my eyes. She was supposed to disappear clean. Transfer the money. Let you die quietly. But she couldn't do it. She warned you. That was her mistake. I felt my pulse pounding in my ears. You think I'm just going to let you walk away after that? She gave a small, humorless laugh. You think I'm here by mistake? You were never supposed to survive. But now that you have, you're useful. I wanted to run. But my feet stayed planted. Useful how? I asked. She reached for a file on the bed and handed it to me. Inside was a photo, grainy black and white. A man in a business suit shaking hands with someone off-frame. His name is Arthur Penn, she said. Insurance executive. He moves our policies. Our cover lives. Your wife was meant to deliver funds to him before she vanished. But since she's gone, the trail's broken. He's panicking. You can fix that. I'm not fixing anything for you. You already are, she said softly. You came here, didn't you? You followed her ghost right into my hands. I remember the next moments in flashes. She reached into her jacket. I lunged. The gun went off. Loud. Deafening. A scream of light and heat. For a second, I thought I'd been shot. But it was her shoulder that caught the bullet, barely grazing. She didn't even flinch. Just smiled through gritted teeth. You've got her fire, she said. She always picked men who could fight back. I ran. Out the door. Into the parking lot, my heart hammering like it wanted out of my chest. When I reached my truck, there was something already waiting on the seat. An envelope. No name. Just one line typed in bold black letters. If you want the truth, follow the money. Inside was a cashier's check. $200,000. Signed by Arthur Penn. I didn't go home. I didn't call the police. I just drove hours, states, until the world went blurry outside the windshield. The money wasn't the point. The signature was. Arthur Penn wasn't a ghost. He was real. And if he was tied to her, I could find him. I stopped in Savannah for the night, checked into a roadside inn and sat staring at that check under the lamplight. The date on it made my blood run cold. Issued 3 days after Margaret's death. Meaning, someone had cashed in. Someone had access. Her death wasn't cleanup. It was profit. I started digging. Old contacts from construction days, people who knew people in finance, back channels on the dark web. It took 2 days before someone bit, a hacker out of Atlanta who said he could trace financial trails if I had numbers. I wired him a retainer, sent photos of the check, and waited. At 3 a.m. the next night, he called. "Your girl wasn't working solo, man," he said. "That account isn't private, it's corporate. Shell company registered in the Caymans. But here's the kicker, there's a secondary signer." "Who?" He hesitated. "Douglas Weller." I felt my breath catch. "That's impossible." "I never." "Yeah, you did. Or someone who is you did. Passport scan, signature, tax ID, the works. Looks like you opened it 6 months ago." 6 months ago, when Margaret was still alive. When she still had access to my documents. She hadn't just stolen my trust. She'd stolen me. The hacker sent one last file before hanging up. A video, pulled from security cam footage in Miami, dated 4 days after her supposed death. Grainy, distant, but clear enough. A woman in sunglasses, hair darker now, shorter. Walking out of a bank. She turns toward the camera, smiles. And for one brief, impossible moment, I swear it's her. Margaret, alive. It's strange, how your mind can't accept what your eyes see. Even after everything, the lies, the bodies, the blood. I sat in that motel room in Savannah, staring at the paused frame of the security footage, whispering to myself like a lunatic, "That can't be her. That can't be her." But it was. Same posture, same tilt of the head. The same almost smile she'd use when she was pretending nothing was wrong. The timestamp didn't lie. 4 days after her death. I had buried an empty casket. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. The hacker, a guy who called himself Lobo, said he could track where she was headed if I wired another $5,000. I sent it. Within the hour, he was back on the line. Miami withdrawal was wired to a secondary bank in Key Largo. Then nothing. She vanished off the grid again. "Can you get me the address?" I asked. "You sure you want it? Just send it." He did. And that was it. The moment the old version of me, the quiet retired husband, finally died. What was left was a man chasing a ghost who'd already tried to bury him. The drive down through Florida felt like crossing into another world. The deeper south I went, the more humid the air got, the more my mind boiled with questions. If she'd faked her death, who had they buried? Was she still working for Eleanor? Or had she escaped, running from both of us? Every possibility made my chest tighten, my pulse quicken. But under all of it was something worse, a sick kind of hope, that I'd see her again. That maybe she'd look at me the way she used to, before the lies. The address led me to a small white house on stilts near the Gulf. It was the kind of place you could disappear in. Quiet, sun-bleached, curtains drawn, with a fishing dock stretching out over black-green water. A silver SUV was parked out front. I recognized the model instantly. It was hers. I killed the engine, sat in the truck, watching. Waiting. At dusk, the door opened. And there she was. She wore her hair shorter now, dyed a muted auburn. Her posture was straighter, colder. But the second she stepped into the porch light, every cell in my body screamed her name. Margaret. Carolyn. Whoever the hell she really was. She froze when she saw me. Not shock, not fear. Just calculation. Then she smiled. Slow. Careful. "I wondered how long it would take you." I got out of the truck, my heart pounding. "You're alive. You sound disappointed. You faked your death. You framed me, stole everything we had, tried to poison me. And you survived." Her tone was flat, almost admiring. "I knew you would." "Why?" I demanded. "Why any of this? Was I just another job?" She took a long breath and looked past me, out toward the water, where the last light of the day died behind a line of palms. "You were the first one who didn't deserve it," she said quietly. "That made you dangerous." I didn't understand what she meant. Not yet. So I followed her inside. The house was spare, sterile, like a safe house. No photos, no clutter. Just a few bags, a laptop, a coffee mug, and a half-burned candle that smelled like cedar. She poured 2 glasses of whiskey. Her hands didn't shake. "You want to talk?" "Fine," she said, sliding one glass toward me. "But once I tell you the truth, you don't walk away clean." Try me, she started slow. About Eleanor. About how they met when she was 19, an orphan working in some dingy insurance office in Ohio, scraping to survive. Eleanor had been older, already deep in the con world, and she saw potential in her. She taught me how to disappear, Margaret said. How to start over. How to make men trust me, marry me, and die rich. But what she didn't tell me was that nobody ever gets out. I said nothing. Just listened. Each time I tried to quit, she pulled me back in. New name. New man. New insurance policy. Until you. She looked up at me then, and for the first time in years, I saw something real in her eyes. Regret. I wasn't supposed to love you, Doug. You were supposed to die in your sleep, and I was supposed to take the money and move on. But when I saw what that poison did to you, I couldn't finish it. I wanted to believe her. God help me, I did. So who killed you? I asked. Her mouth twitched. Eleanor. She found out I was leaving. She sent someone to make it look like suicide. But I had a plan of my own. The body in the car. A woman who looked like me. She owed Eleanor money. I made her a deal. Cash, new ID, fake accident. But they got to her first. Then they thought they got me too. It bought me time. She leaned closer. But Eleanor doesn't stop. Not until everyone's dead. I shook my head, dazed. So what now? Now we finish it. She turned her laptop toward me. On the screen was a document. Encrypted accounts, wiring details, offshore funds, millions of dollars. The entire network's money trail. This is her empire, she said. Every shell company, every fake policy. If we take this to the feds, she loses everything. You still have a clean name. I don't. You're insane, I said, standing. The feds think you're dead. They think I'm losing my mind. Then let's make them believe you found the truth. We drop this, she burns. Or, she hesitated, eyes darkening. We take it for ourselves. Start over. Really start over this time. That's when the sound came, faint, metallic, outside. A car door closing. She froze. You didn't tell anyone you were coming, did you? No. She moved to the window, peered out. I followed her line of sight. 2 black sedans. No headlight, rolling slow down the gravel road. It's her, Margaret whispered. Eleanor. I barely had time to breathe before the first shot cracked through the night. Glass exploded beside us. Margaret grabbed my arm, yanked me to the floor. Basement, she hissed. Now. We scrambled down a narrow set of stairs as more shots ripped through the house. The lights above flickered, died. She was shaking, whispering something under her breath. A name, a code I couldn't tell. Then she shoved a hard drive into my hands. If I don't make it, take this to Agent Morales. Tell her it's all in here. The accounts, the circle, everything. What about you? She met my eyes. I stopped running the moment you found me. Then she pushed me toward the back exit, just as the basement door burst open. I turned once, just in time to see her raise her gun. And then the flash. A single shot. Then another. And her body crumpled into the dark. The sound of that last gunshot hasn't left my head. Not when I wake. Not when I close my eyes. It just loops, a hollow thunder inside my skull, over and over, like the echo of a door slamming shut forever. She fell before I could reach her. No cry. No words. Just a single exhale, soft and final. Margaret, or Carolyn, or whoever she really was, died at my feet again. Only this time, I knew it was real. The blood pooling beneath her wasn't staged. It was warm. It was hers. The men upstairs were still moving. I could hear them, boots on shattered glass, voices sharp and controlled. Check the basement. Hard drives priority. Weller too. That name, my name, made my heart seize. I didn't think. I just ran. Out through the cellar hatch, into the wet black air of the marsh behind the house. My shoes sank into the mud, the smell of rot and salt filling my lungs. The night was heavy, moonless. I could barely see my own hands. Behind me, someone shouted. A flashlight beam sliced through the dark. Another shot cracked. Bark exploded beside my head. I didn't look back again. By dawn, I was 30 miles north, hiding in a storage shed behind a bait shop off Highway 1. The hard drive she'd given me was still clutched in my fist, smeared with her blood. I didn't even know if it was intact, didn't know if any of it was worth surviving for anymore. But her last words kept replaying, "If I don't make it, take this to Agent Morales." Morales, the younger of the 2 federal agents who'd first questioned me. The one who had believed something was wrong. So I did the only thing I could. I called her. When she picked up, I could hear the exhaustion in her voice. Weller, yeah. A pause. We thought you were dead. Not yet, I said. But she is. Carolyn. Margaret, whatever you want to call her. They killed her. I have proof. Where are you? Doesn't matter. Meet me somewhere safe. Public. She hesitated, then gave me an address in Jacksonville. A small diner off I-95. Noon. And Douglas, she said, her voice low, cautious. Don't talk to anyone else. Not even us. Especially not Fowler. Then she hung up. I got there early. Sat in a corner booth, hands shaking, staring out at the parking lot every few seconds. At 12:08, Morales walked in. Alone. Plain clothes. No badge. Eyes scanning the room before locking on mine. I handed her the hard drive. Didn't even say a word at first. She plugged it into a small encrypted tablet she'd brought, typing fast. When the first file opened, her eyes widened. My God. Account numbers. Transaction trails. Dozens of insurance payouts tied to fake deaths, dummy companies, shell accounts. And behind them, names. Real names. Agents, judges, accountants, people in law enforcement. It's not just a network, Morales whispered. It's an organization. She built an economy out of the dead. And Eleanor? I asked. She looked at me, grim. We've never had proof she existed. Until now. She turned the tablet so I could see. There, buried in an email chain, was a signature block. E. Grayson, Compliance Division, Panopticon Mutual. Panopticon Mutual? I asked. Insurance company based in D.C. legit on the surface. They underwrite half the life policies in the Southeast. If this data is real, Eleanor isn't some ghost. She's a corporate executive. I felt the room tilt. You're saying this entire thing, the murders, the fraud, the fake deaths, was just business? Morales nodded. And you're the only witness left who can testify to it. That's when the front door bell rang. Morales glanced up, frowning. 2 men in suits stepped inside. One of them was Agent Fowler. He smiled when he saw me. Well, I'll be damned. You actually found him. Morales stood. Fowler, what are you? Relax, he interrupted, flashing a badge. We've got this from here. She took a step back, her hand slowly moving toward her sidearm. Doug, she said without looking at me, don't move. Fowler's smile didn't reach his eyes. Hand it over, Weller. My heart dropped. You're one of them. One of who? He said, voice calm, almost amused. You've been talking to ghosts too long, son. Give me the drive and let's end this clean. Morales drew first. The next second was chaos. Gunfire erupted, deafening inside the diner. Shattered glass rained down like ice. I dove under the table as Fowler's partner went down. Morales hit the floor behind the counter, blood blooming on her sleeve. Fowler was shouting, moving toward me, his gun raised. I grabbed the only weapon I could find, a broken chair leg, and swung as he passed. He dropped. The hard drive skittered across the floor. I didn't wait. I grabbed it, bolted out the back door, into the blinding daylight and the roar of the highway. That was 3 days ago. I've been running since. Motels, bus stations, nameless towns. Morales is alive, but barely. I saw her on the news, listed in critical condition. They said the shooter, Agent Thomas Fowler, died on scene. But I know better. The circle doesn't die that easy. I'm writing this now from a roadside diner in Mississippi. I don't even know why. Maybe because I'm tired. Maybe because I need someone to know the truth before they find me. The hard drive's still with me. I've made copies, hidden them where they'll be found if I disappear. There's enough here to burn that company, to expose Eleanor and everyone tied to her, but I can't shake the feeling that I'm not the one in control anymore. Earlier tonight, the waitress brought me my check. There was a note paperclipped to it. Type, clean, familiar font. You did well, Douglas. We clean our own messes. E.g. No signature. No name. But I don't need one. Somewhere out there, she's watching. And maybe she always was. If you're hearing this, if this recording ever makes it out, know this. My wife wasn't a monster. She was a soldier in someone else's war. And I was just collateral. They call it the circle. But it isn't a circle at all. It's a mirror. And one day, you'll see your own reflection staring back from the dark.